Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we're going to do a few more viewer-asked questions since a lot of people seem to enjoy this. And for being honest here, I received a lot of questions after that video. But this particular one was a question that wasn't necessarily a question, but I thought it was kind of a cool guitar that we could talk about anyways. About a month or two ago, we talked about the Slam and style guitars. You can check out this video if you want to learn more about them, but it was kind of cool. It was a Les Paul shaped instrument with a Charlie Christian pickup in the neck and a few other different variations. So apparently Wes was contacted saying that he was featured on the show, but his buddy was just mistaken. It was one of those. And of course that all came before my 2021 April Fool's LP 400 idea I had. So let's go ahead and take a look at his build here. So at first, I was pretty impressed just with this. I thought it was a solid body guitar that might have been chambered out. And yet they still have a staple pickup in here, but that looks like a chrome pickup cover to me. And then you have a vintage trapeze style tailpiece with a floating bridge, looks like master volume, master tone. Kind of an interesting pick guard going on with the faux tortoiseshell look. And we've either got some binding right here or we have some sort of wood exposed, but yet no binding on the neck. Now thankfully, since he built this thing, he actually has photos of it, throughout the process. So here you can see the kerfing along the edges and some of the bracing. Looks like maybe a spruce top, I'm not quite sure. But he left this entire area solid, that way the neck would have something good to join to, I would guess. And you have an area right here for your strap buttons to be put in. But then here is the completed project. Okay, so right here this is more looking like a cream pickup, and I like that with the whole tobacco finish and the red pick guard. It matches really well with the golden style knobs, and it's just kind of a really classy old looking guitar here. Now when we flip over to the back, interestingly enough, he decided to give it a control plate back here. So if you need to work on your electronics, it is a little bit easier. Honestly, I think that's the one thing I don't necessarily love about this guitar. I'm sure with the right tools, he probably could have got away with not having to do any of that and just feeding it through the F-holes, but those F-holes look particularly small, so maybe that's why he had to do it. But it does appear he at least used the same wood that he took out of the guitar, so if we really zoom in there, the wood grain matches up. So it looks like this is all mahogany, as is the neck. I'm not a big fan of the figuring on the neck. It reminds me of some import guitars. And then as far as the face of the headstock goes, kind of got a cool moon going up on here. Kind of a faux open book headstock design, more of a humpback whale. But when I saw this photo, I thought, this reminds me of another model. I've yet to have my hands on one of these things, but in the 50s, according to Reverb anyways, from 1950 to 1957, there is a 3/4 sized instrument called the ES-140, and it's, very similar to what this Luthier built, except for just a different pickup with different pickup placements. I mean, this thing has a P90 pickup in the neck position. I've always loved these little things. I need to check one out because they just look good. I mean, this one looks pretty good, but it's had a lot of work done to it. It's essentially what I'm looking for, but it's 3/4 size instead of being full sized. I think it would be great to see these things come back in the Gibson lineup as a full-sized instrument, even if it's just a limited edition. I mean, it's still a chunky guitar this way. Maybe not as full as like an ES-175, but it kind of looks close to it, though, doesn't it? But a beautiful vintage sunburst finish on this thing, the traditional Gibson logo that we're used to seeing. But this one has definitely had some modifications. You can see a little bit of a ding right here. Something happened to our output jack, so somebody has kind of spliced some stuff in. That either happened because somebody stepped on the jack while they were playing and it cracked the wood, or somebody needed to get into the electronics and they didn't know you could fish it through the F-hole, so they cut an access plate. I had a 295 that somebody did that on once. But hey, if you can live with that, you can get a gorgeous piece. I mean, this is really nice looking. It's got all the right finish checking. I really, really want to check one of these out one day. Like, if somebody owns one of these and they want to send it in for a review, this is one of the few fan guitars I would actually accept. But they're not particularly expensive. I mean, the price guide here says, like $2,000. Most people are asking around $3,000+. I guess it really just depends on condition and originality and all that. So cool, Wes. Thanks for sharing that with us. Continuing on here, we've got Ian. He's asking if I can help him get the Epiphone limited edition Brendan Small Ghost Horse Explorer. He's talking about this guy right here, listed for $799. They're currently listed as out of stock. I don't know if that means they're done or they're just waiting for another batch to come in, but it looks like you can find some on Musician's Friend. Looks like a few are in stock at Zounds, and you can find pre-orders elsewhere like on Chicago Music Exchange's website. So this would simply fall under my New Guitar Day service if you need help purchasing one of those or want to see it unboxed on the show. Fortunately and unfortunately though, I already have one of these and it's already been spoken for, so we'll see an unboxing of that soon. It's a good way to support the show if you're buying a new guitar. And now we have a question from Gregory here. Man, this is a doozy of a question. It ties in with that last question, modern or original collection. He's saying that he invested in the guitar a couple of years ago. He's really into it. He loves looking at guitars on Reverb like all of us. But he's been hearing terms like Goodwood era. But he's also heard good things about the original collection. So he's asking, should he go new or early 2000s, late 90s? And to be honest with you, Gregory, I do not have an answer for this question because they're both good. Before the original collections came out, this is what you wanted. This is what you bought when you wanted a regular Les Paul standard. These guys will still have 9-hole weight relief, but they're generally pretty heavy. But in the early 2000s, there are some beautifully figured backs and tops. So if you care about stuff like that, definitely hunt one of those guys out. But if you're worried about like the longevity of the playability of the instrument, do you have to do some work to it? I think in that case, I would suggest going new. But if you like a guitar that's been played a little bit more, has a little bit more of a vintage vibe to it, I mean, it's not that old yet, but you can also find some interesting colors in the early 2000s, like there's the Gecko Burst, Latte Cream, and a few other interesting ones. So really, you can't go wrong with either. I would personally suggest between the years of 2002 to 2006. Technically, you're outside of the Goodwood era, which refers to the early 90s. But really, don't read into that hype too much. They're great guitars, and that's just a term that got thrown around all the time on guitar forums. And in the early 2000s era, there were 50s and 60s necks as well, but even the 50s necks aren't really that big. So if you like the 60s necks more, you're gonna be fine. You can still find a 60s neck in that era too. So really, just find one that has the color and top that you appreciate and whatever's easiest to get. Because he's from the UK, so it might not be as easy to get a brand new guitar. But then again, it's probably not that easy to get one of the older ones either. But he has narrowed down his selection here just a tad. The first one here is a 2001 Yamaha ordered Honeyburst. Are Yamanos worth it in my opinion? It's kind of like Goodwood era. Yamaha is a well-known Japanese shop that is very meticulous as to what they accept. They have a reputation of if anything's subpar, they send it back. And so having a Yamaha guitar, it's kind of cool. They generally sell for a small premium just because, you know, people talked about it on internet forums. This particular one, it's kind of a plain top. You can find nicer looking ones, that's for sure, but this is a nice looking one in good condition. But we're at $21.95. Whoa, wow. But you gotta remember, we're in a different market, so judging by the condition of this one, not grossly overpriced, but a little bit higher than I would suggest paying for something like this. I mean, unless it's got a great flame top or a really uniquely figured back, I probably wouldn't pay quite that much. So that answers this question, but anything that stands out that doesn't seem right? No, this guitar looks 100% fine. I don't see anything fishy with it. Then the other one he's looking at is here. Okay. They've got one of the Guitar Center exclusive tri-bursts that we just talked about. Now this one is kind of bursty. I guess it just kind of depends. Definitely see if you can get photos of each of them. But this one they want more than brand new. Now I'm assuming this is already overseas. I'm not quite sure where this dealer is located at. Yes, that appears to be accurate. And something you need to know about these is when you export a guitar, you're going to pay an import duty and tax, which is normally 20%, but it depends on what country it's going to. So to buy one of those brand new at $2,500, Guitar Center won't ship internationally, so you'll have to use someone like me to help you forward it out of the country. So that's $200 for me to forward it to you, plus shipping costs, which is normally around like $350. So that's plus $550 and then plus 20%. I mean, you can see it really adds up. So this makes no sense to the US American market, but to this market, okay, it's not that bad. So it's about $300 cheaper than his other option. And both of his options are used examples. How did they get so many of these? So this one has a nice uniform top on this side. And this one's a little bit more plain, but I kind of like it that it doesn't have a lot of figuring right here because that looks a little bit strange in my opinion. I would probably go with this one between those two. Now, I've already let you guys know how I feel about the tri-burst finish in general, so given the option between these two, money not an object, in this case, I would probably go with this, because it appears to be very clean for its age, but I would say talk them down to the same price range as these, around $2,800. That would be my suggestion in this case. That's going to do it for today's episode of Viewer Asked Questions. Again, you can book a private help session via my website, troglysguitarshow.com. Otherwise, you're welcome to send me a question on my Facebook page, and occasionally I'll use these for future episodes. Like Sean's question here. He's asking me, someone near him is selling a heavily modified 1959 Les Paul DC. Are there any features that would give it away as a fake? Yeah, the fact that it's a Les Paul DC. Unless somebody's modified a burst, yeah, I would need more photos to help you there, though. Alright, Troglodytes, thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.